Hey team, I'm going to do a quick video for you guys on programming today. So I basically want to teach you what makes good programming and also how and why does the programming that I've set for you guys, how and why does it actually work? So what's kind of the science behind that? And I see so many people just kind of coming into the gym and doing what they feel like, doing a few squats with a random weight. And this really doesn't work because for good programming to work, you need something called progressive overload, which I'm going to touch on a little bit later. But basically, over the 6-week team coaching block, I want to teach you guys how to write your own good programming so that after this course is done, you're equipped to keep making gains with good programming in the future. So first off, I'm going to talk about the difference between training for strength and training for hypertrophy, which is building muscle. So there's a lot of overlap, but you approach them slightly differently. So hopefully you can read this. For strength, you want to be operating in the 1 to 5 rep range, and you want to be lifting really heavy. So you want to be lifting around 80% of your 1 rep max as a rough guide. However, when it comes to training for hypertrophy, which is muscle building, the most ideal rep range is 8 to 12 reps, and you're going with slightly less weight, so you're only going at about 60% of your 1RM. So for strength, 1 to 5 reps heavy is the ideal range. For hypertrophy, 8 to 12 reps at moderately heavy is the ideal range. So for strength, the focus should be on lifting heavy weights and putting a lot of stress on the body, whereas for building muscle, the most important thing is actually total training volume. So it's not about how much you're lifting, what weight you're lifting. It's about total training volume, which equates to reps times weight times sets. So say for a particular exercise like a squat, I was to do 5 reps of 5 kilos for 5 sets. So 5 times 5 times 5 equals 125, meaning that my total training volume would be 125 kilos. So to make that a little bit more concrete, you can see 5 reps of 5 kilos, 5 sets, all that together equals 125 kilos, and that's my total training volume. Similarly, down the bottom, if I were to do 10 reps of 10 kilos for 1 set, my total training volume, when you multiply all those together, is 100 kilos. So what matters when it comes to building muscle is that final number, your training volume. In contrast to strength, where the most important thing is the weight that you're lifting. So the reason why the 8 to 12 rep range is most ideal for hypertrophy is because it's easier to get your total training volume up when you're operating in that rep range. So here, say for example, someone's squat 1RM is 100 kilos. Hypothetically, they should be able to do sets of 3 at around 80% of that, and they should be able to do sets of 8 at around 70% of that, which is what I have for you guys. So if you see, I have you doing sets of 3 at 80%, and I have you doing sets of 8 at 70% for a given exercise. So if your 1RM is 100 kilos, and you did sets of 3 at 80, 3 times 80 equals 240 as your training volume if you were to do 1 set. However, if you're to do 1 set of 8 at 70 kilos, your total training volume would be 560. So your total training volume is much higher, meaning that it's more ideal for hypertrophy, which is why the higher reps are built better for building muscle. I hope that makes sense because that is very hard to explain. So you guys will see in your programming that for each of the 3 main lifts, you'll be doing them each 3 times per week. Twice a week, you're in the strength building zone. So 3 to 4 reps at around 80% of your 1RM. And then 1 time, you're in the hypertrophy zone, which is 70% for sets of 8. So I want the focus for this course to be on strength. However, if you want the focus to be on hypertrophy, you could shift that and have more days where you're kind of operating in the higher rep range. Also, I want to make it clear that the 1 to 5 rep range is most optimal for strength, but you'll still be working on building muscle at the same time. It's just the optimal strength zone. Similarly, the 8 to 12 reps, which is optimal for hypertrophy, you'll still be building strength, but it's most optimal for hypertrophy. So all good programming must incorporate what we call progressive overload. It must. So progressive overload simply means increasing total training volume over time. So I normally do this on a weekly basis. You want to make sure that for each exercise, the weight times rep times sets, whatever that equals, that number is increasing over time. So say for a particular workout, for squats, you are doing 10 reps of 10 kilos and 5 sets for a given workout. So your total training volume for that workout for squats is 500 kilos. You want to make sure that on a weekly basis, you are increasing that number. And you can do so by increasing either the reps, the weights, or the sets. So you can see here that if you were to go 11 reps of the same weight and the same sets, that total number would increase. If you bump up the weight to say 11 kilos and go 10 reps of 11 kilos times 5, that total training volume would increase. Same if you boosted that to 6 sets instead of 5, that total training volume would increase. Now, if your goal is strength related, ideally you want it to be the weight that's going up each week. So if you can, like we're doing in the programming, add small increments to the weights, keep the reps and sets consistent, and try and build progress in terms of your weights, which in turn will be increasing that total training volume. However, once you've been following this kind of program for a while, hitting a plateau is pretty much inevitable. They will get to a point where it's really hard to boost up your strength and you just can't anymore. In that case, you want to work on upping your reps and upping your sets. So keep the weight as it is and increase the volume in other ways to get that number up.